Hello everyone, this is Starry Ari's ASMR. I am Ari, and today, as you can see by my entire background color drenched in hearts, I am doing a little Valentine's themed video with these cookies. These are some cookies that I just made yesterday, and I did not have time to film me baking and decorating these, but I thought that I would pick out a few to show you and kind of like over-explain how I decorated them. As you can see, they are not anything too fancy. They're pretty basic, but I still think that they're pretty cute. I wanted to bake some cookies to bring to my family because they are watching our dog for an upcoming trip. And my mom really likes my sugar cookies. And so these ones I picked out that I'm going to be tapping and scratching on are ones that my husband and I will eat. So don't be worried if you think it's a little weird that I am tapping and scratching on cookies. I'm not giving these away to my family to eat. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cookies to show you. And some of them have very similar designs, but with just different colors, and some were just different techniques. And then in the background I have this very crinkly Valentine's Day tissue paper. I am going to move this plate, and then we can take a look at these cookies one by one, and I will just be tapping and scratching on them as I tell you about them. This is the first cookie that I want to show you. And as you can see, I did a base of a very soft pink, and this is a heart-shaped cookie, little Valentine heart. And then I did a white little swirl around the edge of the cookie. So I did a white line right around the edge. And then on this side, I did a little swirl. And I had seen a couple designs like this on Pinterest. I am nowhere near being able to do anything like what other people can do with their cookies. But I was like, this one I can probably do, right? It's just a line with a little swirl. And I really like the simplicity of this one. I had also seen some other designs with this kind of swirl where there was another swirl on this side and then there was a swirl down here. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna keep it very, very basic and just do the one swirl before I get too far ahead of myself. And you can see my edges are not the most perfect, but I have fun baking cookies, and you know, even if my decorations aren't like bakery worthy, I think that they are still cute enough and they are tasty. So this is just a basic vanilla sugar cookie, and the icing is just a vanilla royal icing. I wish I had put some vanilla bean paste in my sugar cookies because I just like that. I think it adds a little bit of extra flavor, but these are still tasty. And my royal icing is just powdered sugar, water, vanilla extract, and meringue powder. And I know that you can also put like almond extract in your sugar cookies, and that kind of gives a nice flavor, but my mom is sensitive to almonds, so I wanted to leave that out so that she could enjoy some cookies. This is the first bigger heart one. I did a couple of sizes, but these were the largest of the sizes. And the next cookie I have here is all pink, and even the outline swirl that I did is in the same pink color, which I kind of liked. I thought that that was kind of cute to have that on top. But then I also put granulated sugar on the top to kind of give it this nice texture and kind of sparkly shine to it. And I've seen people do this trick in cookie decorating videos before, and for some reason their cookies always look so much shinier than when I use the granulated sugar, so I don't know if I would need maybe like a coarser sugar or something, I don't know, but I still think that it's pretty cute. And we had actually done this trick when we did our Christmas cookies, and we did the granulated sugar on the top of the stockings where there would be like the fur, like the fuzziness at the cuff, and so that was kind of cute because it made it look a little bit fuzzy. But this one is that same size, and again in the shape of a heart. And this one, when I did the swirl, I brought this side down a little bit more, and I thought that kind of looked cute. I like both where it ends here and when it comes down, so I'm not too sure. And again, the edges of this cookie are not perfect by any means, but I think that is okay. And it does make a lovely scratching sound because of the sugar. And so I originally did the base with this just plain pink heart and filled it in, and then I let it dry a little bit before I did this line because I wanted it to stand out a little bit, especially with it being the same color. If I had not waited for this base to dry when I put this line down, it would have kind of blended into the color in the background. And that is a valid trick. I'll show you some of my cookies where I did do that. That's called like a wet on wet design, I believe. And so this one I didn't let it fully dry because I didn't need it to be fully dry, but just kind of lightly dry on the top so that when I laid this down it didn't just immediately sink into the base color. And then that gave us this lovely little color right on top. And then while this was still kind of tacky and not fully dried down, I sprinkled a bunch of granulated sugar, and then I just turned it around and shook it off. And then I was left with this very pretty granulated sugar kind of sheen and sparkle. Let's do this one next. This one is a bit of a mess, but I think it's still cute. So this is a smaller heart shape, and again it has that same pink background, and I had accidentally waited a little bit too long between doing my outline and the flood, in the middle to fill it in here so you can kind of see the outline, but that's okay. And then what I did with this one is I put little white dots of royal icing around the cookie, and then I took a toothpick and I just dragged it around through those dots, and then I got this kind of fun pattern. Now I think I had done slightly too large of white dots, and so ideally you drag it through and you get this little tail and it looks like a little heart, and then you get some pink before it goes back to the next dot. But I think my dots were a little bit too big because it all just kind of became one white line. And you can see it dried a little bit funky up here, because I think also my frosting was a little bit too thick. I think I needed it to be a little bit more thinned out, but I did not want to go through the process of having to thin out my icing that was already in the piping bag, so I just made do with what I had. And I think that it still turned out cute, but I did the same technique with this cookie, and this cookie is a base with white royal icing, and then I did the little dots in pink. And even though I think that this still kind of has the same problem as the other one where it's all kind of dragging the pink around, I think that it turned out a little bit cuter because I dragged this part down a little bit. So we got this little line coming down to somewhat accentuate that dip in the heart shape right here. And I think that that kind of turned out cute. I think, again, if I had maybe been a little bit lighter handed with my dots, I think it could have been cuter, but I think it's still kind of cute, and they kind of vaguely look like little heart shapes somewhat in some places with your imagination. And then I did the same technique with this round cookie, and this one is, I think, really fun because it does it in a little spiral pattern. And again, I had the same issue where I waited a little bit too long between doing my outline and doing the fill, so you can very clearly see the outline there. And again, I think my dots were pretty big, but this is a round cookie, so I think it was a little bit more forgiving for me doing the little swirl with the dots. And I think that it just turned out really cute. And these are such simple designs. I mean, they're really, really basic. I'm not doing anything crazy at all. I don't really have a skill with piping icing yet to be able to do anything super advanced. But I like these little toothpick tricks because it just makes the cookies turn out just like a little bit cuter. I had done some blue kind of wintry cookies, and I did some designs just with a toothpick like this, and I did crisscrossy designs, and I think that they turned out really cute. Maybe I'll put in a picture here. And it's just so simple and easy. Just use a little toothpick to do something like this. So those were all of the cookies with that kind of dot design. And then let me do this one. This one is a bit messy, but it is a smaller heart shape, and it has a background of that pink color. And then I just did a crisscrossy line design on these ones. And I am not skilled enough yet to know how to stop my line of icing when I am drawing something like this. Like, I can start it here just fine, and then I can't stop it without it dragging over. And so I'm still learning that. And I think that I need to invest in some piping bags with multiple tips so that I can actually, like, be able to make it a little more uniform because my pink icing was in kind of a larger tip with a piping bag, but my white icing was in just a disposable piping bag without a tip, and I just tried to cut the tip of the bag off. And so when I do that, I can never cut it quite straight and it comes out funky and it's just this whole thing. And so I think next time I do cookies, they're cheap enough. They're like under $10. I just need to pick up some kind of smaller cookie decorating icing, like piping bag tips. But I still think this one's kind of cute. I like the little crisscrossy pattern. If you ignore these like extra lines that are on the top and the side over here, like if you don't look at those, I think it's still kind of cute. And it does, this one makes a fun scratching noise because of all of the lines. And so I did a few with this technique, and I was hoping the more that I did the lines, the better I would get at being able to stop the icing, but I sadly was not getting better at it. They all kind of turned out like this, but that's okay. And let me show you the last cookie. This one is also a heart shaped. I only did a few of the round cookies because I thought for Valentine's Day having mostly heart-shaped cookies would be cute. And this one again has that pink base with the very visible outline here. And then I had these kind of pearly like sprinkles, or I don't know exactly what you would call them, little like candy pearls. And I thought that it would be really cute to just kind of dot them around in the icing. So what I did with this one was just did the outline, waited too long, did the fill, and then while the fill was still tacky, I let it dry down a little bit, but not fully, so that when I dropped these little pearls into the icing, they would easily stick, but not just like sink right in. So they're still kind of standing out a little bit. And I think they're really cute, and it's a little bit hard to see in the camera, I think, but they are kind of like, they've got a pearly sheen to them. They're not just little like white balls. They're really like shiny and very pretty. And I think that this one was really cute. I did quite a few with these pearls because it was like a really easy little design thing that I could do. And I'm not somebody that really dislikes sprinkles or anything like this on my cookies, but I know some people don't really care for them. But I find that these ones, it's kind of like a fun little crunch, you know? They're not gonna break your teeth, but they're like a fun added texture when I'm biting into the cookie. Alright, so those were all of the cookies that I wanted to show you today. I also did a few kind of like marbly ones where I did dots around the cookie and then just kind of swirled it all around. And it just kind of turned out I had done it with too thick of frosting or icing, and so it just kind of came out a mess. Let me see if I can grab one to show you, but this one here. Okay. The icing is like sticking up in places. It's like dripping off the side. It's a bit of a mess, but if you ignore all of that and imagine that this was all nice and smooth, I thought the marble design was kind of pretty and very soft. Like I did it with the base pink and then just did white dots everywhere and just kind of really swirled it. But that one's a bit of a mess, so let's not talk about that one. But I hope that you enjoyed this little show and tell with some of my Valentine's Day cookies. I hope that you have a very Happy Valentine's Day if you celebrate. Thank you so much for watching.